All right, world. You should be able to hear me. Hello, hello, hello. It's your host, Teresa B, here on Amitza Media Radio. And it's Tuesday, October 2nd at 6:09 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And I am excited that you have waited to join me this evening. There are upcoming events and opportunities for you all. So please stay tuned for the announcements later in the show. Due to the previous storm here in North Carolina, we had to postpone a couple of shows. But we're back live. So please tune in to MethodistRadio.com or download the Radio FX app on your mobile device. Search for Methodist University, then save as your favorite. Or go ahead and join us live video at Amitza Media Facebook page. There was a song, but we're going to push on because the song would have already convened at this time. So we will just go ahead and introduce our guests because that is what's most important for our show this evening. And our guest is Tamarra Causley Robinson. Tamera was born in Camden, New Jersey, and still resides in New Jersey today. She enjoys working out and being healthy, gardening, listening to music, and line dancing, to name a few. Tamera is currently a certified life, career, and leadership development coach for women who are everything to everyone except themselves. So Tamera will go ahead and join us in now. And thank you as well, Tamera, for your patience and your love and appreciation, because I know you have that. And I know you're not new to the show. This is your second time. So thank you again, Tamera.
Thank you, Teresa, and thank you for having me. It's a blessing to be here, and I'm looking forward to today's conversation.
Oh my goodness. I know I'm looking forward to it because you're going to help us on how we can manage and accept our own energy, and I need it. So it's right on time, and I appreciate you coming by to the show to share your expertise with us. So before I get right into it, I'd like for you to just go ahead and provide general background information with your life coaching experiences to everyone.
Yeah, definitely. So I have, in looking back over my life, I can actually see in my rearview mirror that I was always a coach. I just didn't necessarily know what the name of it was. Sometimes it's to be an inspiration for people. Sometimes it's a motivation for people, and a listening ear for people. So I've always had that in me. However, I was blessed enough to have someone who noticed it and called it. And she says, you know what, Tamara, you make a great coach. And I'm surprised that you're not already a certified coach. And so that happened about 11 years ago. I was working in a corporate setting and was taking on new challenges in New York. And it was just a big, big step for me. And so as I was growing, I was helping other people to grow. So, I just really stepped into it and continuing to be blessed by being able to do it live and continue to grow with it as well. So I've been a certified coach since 2009. So we're working on 9 years this year and, still going strong. So, yeah.
Wow. I just started, maybe you was probably the first person when I first heard of life coach.
Yeah.
How long has it been? Has it been a year or 2 years? I don't know.
It's been almost 3. It's
Wow.
2 years for sure, but we're working on 3. Yeah.
Because prior to you, I've never heard of life coach. And after you, I hear it all the time, all the time. But you are the first, I guess I would say, veteran, because the ones I've just met, they're just getting into it or they've been in it a year or two. So I feel more honored. But now the viewers and the listeners can have the opportunity as well. Because one thing I noticed with some of the current life coaches that I've met, they're still trying to get more experiences. And, that's important. And sometimes as potential clients, we want to make sure we're more comfortable with people who actually are more experienced in different areas that we go through. So having you here on the show and as our first life coach for season 2 is
Yes.
definitely a blessing, definitely appreciated. And
Mhm.
I definitely wanted to get right into it and ask you, why is the topic on how to accept and manage your own energy important for you?
Yeah, so everything is energy, right? I think a lot of times when people think about life coach and they hear energy, they think that's something out of this world and it's not something I can touch. However, energy is really about your attitude. It's really about what it is that you bring that is almost like an intangible, but it actually has a feeling, it has a taste.
Mm-hmm.
The best way for me to describe it is, think about a time when you're in a room and someone walks in and it feels like all the air has left the room, right? Think about when people come into the room and all they have to do is smile and you just feel better. That's energy, right? So that it is
Yeah.
a thing, and it's important because when we're able to manage it, or at least understand what our energy is and how we want to show up, that's part of it. um, Being able to get it to a place where we really want to be, sometimes that is a little bit more work, but we all have to realize that we bring energy into everything that we do, and into our being, and it really does start with our thoughts.
Oh, so when you talk about it starts with our thoughts,
Mhm.
how I understand it to be is I'm thinking positive thoughts, so that brings positive energy.
Yeah.
But to be honest with you,
Mhm.
sometimes if I'm having a bad day, I would think of a positive thought for just a second,
Mhm.
hoping to get that positive energy.
Right.
What is it? What is it that I'm really missing with that?
Right. And so one of the things that I know for sure is that thoughts are connected to feelings, and thoughts are also connected to behaviors. And
Mm,
so, when you have, it's almost like going to an ear, nose, and throat doctor.
mm-hmm.
When your sinuses are messing with you, your nose isn't right, right? And
Right.
then you can't hear. Sometimes an ear infection will affect how you're breathing. It's all
Yeah.
connected. So thoughts, feelings, and behaviors are all connected. And so the thing about energy is that we have been conditioned some at times to behave a certain way when something happens. We've been conditioned that, if I'm having a bad day, everybody's going to have a bad day, right? And sometimes it's going to take you a little bit longer to get out of that feeling of despair. It's going to take you a little bit longer to get out of that feeling of I want to feel better, but I'm feeling the way I'm feeling. The best thing to do is to own it and to be in it. You know, I've had my own pity party before, right? And I had a friend of mine tell me, well, is there an expiration date on that pity party? It's getting a little old. And I had to be like, oh my God, I can't even believe he just told me the truth about myself. But until you're ready, it is going to be what it is. But own it, you know, own it.
So, what are some dangers of not accepting and managing your own energy? And should you do that alone, or is it important that you have someone with you to go through that process?
Yeah, yeah. When we don't manage our own energy, we have the ability in a lot of ways to further compromise ourselves, and go into a deeper spiral, if you will. We can spiral up or we can spiral down. A lot of
Hmm.
times when we take notice, it's when it's not a good feeling, right? So knowing that we have energy, and we can affect ourselves, we can also affect other people. And so if I know that so and so, all they have to do is just have a bad feeling, or having a bad day, or not thinking positive thoughts, they can then create that within other people if people aren't cognizant that they are in charge of their own thoughts and feelings about people and situations. And so, it is something that is catching. We hear about one bad apple spoil the whole bunch, right? That's true. That's energy. And so your second question was how, how do we deal with that? Is it better to handle that with the assistance of someone else? And I would say yes, absolutely. However, you want to make sure that the person that you bring in to help you has the ability to help you. Right? Sometimes we have to have that real life person that good and well they will tell you the truth about yourself, and they're probably the best person to have. Other people hire coaches, right? Other people say, hey, I need a lifeline, I just need you to listen to me. And that's what we do. We listen, and we listen without judgment, and we listen knowing that, what, you're human and you're perfect as you are, and you're having a little blip in the radar, and let's talk about it, and let's see what we have to do to get to a better place.
Mm.
Yeah.
You mentioned without judgment.
Yes.
I believe that without judgment can be defined from different people in different ways.
Mm-hmm.
And it's important to know the difference
Mm-hmm.
of what judgment is and what just having tough love is. How can you specify without judgment?
Right.
What does that entail?
Yeah. And for me, without judgment means I'm not looking at you as an individual as good or bad.
Mm-hmm.
You're not right or wrong. You are, and that's it. And so a lot of times when people care about us, it's hard to see us in a way that's not one of those things. So I'm not saying that I don't think some things are good or think some things are bad. That's ridiculous, because that's a human condition. But as coaches, when we're hired to help our clients get to where they want to be. And so sometimes the hard truth is going to be the hard truth. It's
Right.
really about us connecting enough and being able to celebrate the individual enough so that they can be served in the way that they need to be served, knowing that I'm not saying this to you because I love you, and I'm not saying it to you because I hate you. I'm saying this to you because this is the truth of it, and you can take it any way you want. So if I'm not being judgmental of you, a lot of times we're being judgmental of ourselves. So that tends to be something that, you know, we as humans have to deal with and understand and know.
Hmm. So what are, like, if I'm having a bad day,
Mm-hmm.
not just today, if it's
Mm-hmm.
consistent 2, 3 days, a week, 2 weeks, what are some techniques I could use to help me get to that point of changing my energy from negative energy to positive energy?
Yeah, that's a good question. And it's very individual for everyone, right? I wish I had a magic wand and it said, I could just touch you and feel you and say, hey,
Yeah.
you got it, right? It really comes down to what makes you happy, what makes you feel good, right? So sometimes it's a song. Sometimes, a lot for me, music is everything, right? And so if I want to feel blue, I'm just going to play this song that makes me want to cry my eyeballs out. Okay. All right. I got it in, I got it over with. But sometimes it's an empowering song. So I listen to gospel music, I listen to all kinds of music, and there's so many songs out there that I can think of right now that actually make me happy, right?
Mm-hmm.
So for me, it's music. For other people, it could be something else. Sometimes knowing that someone is more positive, anybody that is just that much more positive than you are in the moment, just go put yourself in their presence, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes you got to text somebody and say, listen, I just need 5 minutes of your energy, right? I just need you to tell me that it's going to be all right. Um, Sometimes it's church, sometimes it's going to be that mentor. It's going to be different for everyone. But, a lot of times it's really about the awareness of what makes you happy, what lifts you up, and what can you do in that moment to get some of
I'm gonna have to use some of that, especially 5 minutes. I just need some of your time. What was that? I
that.
just need some of your time.
I just need
So,
some of you,
yeah,
yeah.
I'm gonna have to use that. But as you stated, you gotta know who to ask, who can
Yes.
provide that energy.
Right.
And as you stated, when you talk about owning your energy, you're referring to whether it's positive or negative, correct?
Absolutely.
I would say that sometimes it's easier to own your positive energy than to own your negative energy. So if you can't own it yourself, like what are other like how can you even get to that phase if I notice your negative energy but you don't notice your own energy,
Mhm.
how can that individual get to that phase of owning it before they can manage it?
Yeah, and I think that's an awesome question. But the first things first is you got to own it. So, and we can't make people own stuff that they're not interested in, right? And so I think a lot of times we put ourselves in a place of I got to fix that. I got to fix them, right? And so if we're in the fix it mode, then that we're actually judging what they're doing is wrong, right? So here's the thing. We don't always know what's going on with people either,
Mm-hmm.
right? So I know when my dog, as my husband would say, crossed the river, right? So when we lost our dog, I was done. I
Yeah.
was I was not I wasn't happy. And so you could tell that something was not quite right with Tamera. And um, I didn't feel like smiling. I didn't feel like doing any of those other things. Now, you, Teresa, if you had known me at that point, you were like, come on, Tamera, pick it up, be lively. I'm like, no. I think a lot of times we look to try to fix other people. And is that really our job? Is it our job to go out there and call it, right? So nobody can do anything unless they really want to. And sometimes people are blind to the fact that they are affecting you a certain way,
Yeah.
right? So, um, I would say that if you're affected by a certain person or something that someone has said, find a positive way to share what's actually going on with you. Don't go picking fights, right? Don't go blaming the individual. Talk about the behavior, right? So, an example could be, what if you come in to a room and it's me and you and there's some other people, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you said something that really just you said, maybe you said something like, you know, dog lovers, it doesn't make sense that people treat their dogs like people, right? And
Mm-hmm.
I'm a dog lover and my dog was a person. You couldn't tell her she wasn't a dog, right? So I'm offended by that. Now, am I going to come up and not speak to you? I'll roll my eyes at you, and you're trying to figure out what's going on with Tamera and why is she treating you this way? And that might make you treat me a certain way because of the way that I'm treating you. This is all energy,
Mm-hmm.
right? I could say something like, Teresa, I was really offended by the fact that you, you mentioned that dog lovers, shouldn't treat their dogs like people.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying I don't like you, but I didn't like what you said. I didn't say anything about not liking you, right? That's an adult conversation, I know. I'm also aware that feelings aren't involved either because our feelings have an ability to spin into our energy as well. And so, you know, that's definitely another factor to take into consideration. I'm not going to behave as if anger isn't a part of who we are, and jealousy or happiness or any of those other emotions play a part. But, you know, anytime you can just address the issue, not the person, that just makes for a better conversation anyway.
I love that advice. I love that advice because even with your scenario, going up to that person to say that, they probably didn't realize that that was the type of energy they was giving off. So
Right.
now they can own what they've done, and by managing that, now they'll know in the future how to approach someone in a way to where they not without being hurtful. So it's also good that the receiver probably practiced that as well, because it's not always the sender that realizes what type of energy they're putting off in order to own it. So I love that
Mm-hmm.
approach. Definitely something that I have to probably work a little bit more on when it comes to the receiver, more than the sender. But even sometimes when we talk about building better relationships with one another as women or even as people as a whole,
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a good example of how you can manage and accept your own energy, because it helps build better relationships. If I have an issue with a friend and she said something to me that bothered me, but she probably didn't know that that was something I was passionate about. Instead of me snapping back at her, that's a better approach to, like you say, instead of focusing on the individual, focus on what it was and share it that way with that individual.
Mm-hmm.
And that is a good way to build better relationships, would you say? Or is there anything else you would like to add on that?
No, that's absolutely true in every situation, right? So even at work, it's the same situation. You know, we take things personally, and I think that's one of the things that is probably the hardest, not hard, I won't call it hard, it's challenging, right? Because when it's exacted at you, it's like, oh wait, you know, what about me, right? And so absolutely in every relationship, when communication is the key, um, being able to kind of accept that you might have some emotion around it, and what does that emotion sometimes create for you. Like, I know that there are certain things that will make me go from 0 to 60 in less than 10 seconds. 0 to 60.
Yeah.
Right? And so I'm like, okay, I'm gonna have to walk away right now. Or, okay, I think I'm just gonna be quiet right now. Right? If someone asks for a reaction, you know what? I'm gonna put that on the table. I'm gonna sidebar that for a moment. You know, I'll let you know tomorrow what I'm thinking. Because right now I don't think that I can be really objective. Right? We
Yeah.
know ourselves. And so yeah, absolutely.
Is that the same approach you can take in a more like an intimate relationship where you don't want to talk about it? And when you say tomorrow,
Mm-hmm.
like let's say even a marriage,
Mm-hmm.
how would that end if you still live under the same roof? You can't like walk away from them. So
Right.
how easy is that to I guess change the subject and still be able to be in a good place with one another?
Right. And you know what? That takes time. I'm going to tell you, just like every relationship, and especially when you're in a marriage and a close relationship like that, that's just something that takes time. My husband and I are celebrating 10 years Thursday.
Congratulations.
10 years, crazy, right? And we are totally different people than we were 10 years ago. And one of the things that we know for sure is that we get better at communicating, you know, better at being able to say, you know what, I don't really like you right now. Like, that's one of the things I say. I love him, but sometimes I just don't like him. And it's like, okay. And he knows that I'm not going anywhere. We are committed. We're in.
Mm-hmm.
And I just said, you know, babe, I just need a moment. And he knows well enough. He knows me well enough now to say, okay, so how long is your moment? You know? I'm like, it's not 5 minutes from now, you know. I just, oh. And then, you know, when I'm able to laugh about it and you gotta, when you're able to not take things personally, people for the most part are good. Most people are just good people. Everybody sees something a different way. We can both be looking at the same thing, and if I had to play my videotape, it would be very different than
Yeah.
what, right? And
Right.
so just we got to respect it and be open enough to receive it. Sometimes you're going to get stepped on, your little feelings are going to get hurt. I was able to tell him, my little feelings were hurt right then. He was like, huh? I was like, my feelings were hurt. I know you didn't do it on purpose. No, I would never do that. Okay. It just gets better. But, that's the thing, vulnerability
Yeah.
is a thing when you have close, tight relationships, and you have to be ready for those things to come. And it's one situation, it builds upon what you can actually endure and enhance in your friendships as you go along. I mean, the best friendships last forever, and some friendships don't, and it's okay too. It's okay too.
Wow. And as you know, we're doing it a little different since our sound for music is not, or our commercials are not working properly as we're
Hmm.
connecting live.
Hmm.
But it just something epiphany just came up as you were talking, and it's a good way to kind of combine the some of the announcements with this topic. So the book I had written that most people know and published, Bravely Miseducated, How I Lost My Voice, it hits a lot on accepting my energy, but not just accepting it, trying to, after accepting it is when I published the book.
Right.
Now I'm going through a lot of the managing my energy. Right now, in present time, my challenge is more so how, now that I'm managing it, others that know me notice the change.
Yes.
But I notice they're still struggling with the change I
Hmm.
have. How is it when you're, regardless of what the relationship is, if it's whether it's with family, siblings, friends, spouse, how is it when you're going through that phase of learning yourself, managing your energy, now that you had accepted some things,
Hmm.
how do you, going back to, I guess, the building better relationships, but this one is a little more different where now you're going through your own process,
Right.
and it looks weird to other people who've known you, so they don't really know how to take that.
That's right.
How do you go about that? What's
Yeah.
the, what would you say is the best approach to deal with that?
Yeah. And this is true for everyone, especially, and I think especially when we're going through our constant transformations, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, when people meet us, however we are, and however wherever we stand in where we meet people, I don't know if I'm being clear or not, but a lot of times there's this thing called expectation. And when you've played a certain role for certain people for such a long time,
Mm-hmm.
let's be honest, we get used to you being
Right.
just that, right? So when you're changing and growing, that means that you're going to look different to all of these people because you're no longer that anymore,
Right.
right? And so what tends to happen sometimes is that we are afraid to make those changes because we don't feel like we're going to be accepted as the new
Right.
me. And so again, these are individual conversations that say, because I've been there too. I've been looking like I'm not doing anything that makes sense. But when it makes sense to you, it makes sense to you. And what do we do with the things that make sense to us? Do we chase it? Or do we put our dreams on hold because we want to make other people comfortable? Right?
Yeah.
And that's a tough one because if when they're loved ones, we don't want people to go, but
Yeah.
we don't, doesn't mean that we have to be less of who we are either, right? So it is one conversation at a time. about what it is that you're doing, and you're not saying that there's anything wrong with where they are. It's not about them, it's really about you. And so I think some of the real powerful conversations I've had with people who are really close to me that I really wanted to come with me was, listen, this is who I'm becoming, and I would love your support, right? Which means that it's going to be different, but it doesn't mean that I love you any less, right? Because we all, as humans, have a thing called belonging, right? We want to belong, we want to feel love, we want to be heard, and we want to chase our dreams. Most of us do. We really do. But a lot of times when it comes with feeling like we have to keep up our expectations of other people, that's when we sometimes get lost.
And I think that's where I'm at, more so with some of my family members. I feel a little lost because I knew it would be challenging. I just didn't know exactly what it would be and to what extent.
Mm-hmm.
So now sometimes I feel more outcasted because I do feel like I'm supposed to belong to a certain extent because we're family.
Yep.
And that's why I look at it a little different than if it was friends or coworkers. And like I was saying, it's challenging. It's challenging to
Mm-hmm.
be able to explain to them what it is, where I can also still be comfortable around them. Because sometimes I'm looked at a little differently. I was already looked at different, so I didn't think it could get any worse. But even sometimes I'm looked at more so like I'm looked at more, what's the word? Helpless too. And that's not neither one that I'm trying to accomplish, because as I'm trying to manage my own energy, by managing my own energy, I'm trying to do that with other people as well, because for the most part, I wouldn't say I have challenges with myself with managing it. It's more of connecting with others. And that's where it just gets tricky because they don't know what to accept. And as you stated, even if I say I need your support, they're still trying to understand, well, what is it? What is it that you need? Mm-hmm. So it's just still a roller coaster. But I think what would help, at least for me and other people who are curious to know, what are some of the benefits or lessons of accepting and managing your own energy?
Yeah. There's something about being able to know that you have that awareness. When you're managing your energy, you know when it's about you. When you're managing your energy, it's easier to recognize when it's about somebody else. Mm. And then not to own their stuff, right? We all have enough of our own stuff that we don't need to own everybody else's. And so I think the other part of it is when we take ourselves out of owning everybody else's and just really dealing with our own, there's, for lack of a better term, less ownership there, right? I'm not saying that you cut folk off or anything. It's just like, well, you know what? I know I'm doing the best that I can. And I think for you, Teresa, especially, you did some really amazing work opening your heart and putting it on paper, right? Mm-hmm. And being able to share some things that you would not have normally shared in any other way. And you did it in a bigger way, right? And so think of it in terms of you were in the process while you were writing. And that took how long, right? It took a while.
It did.
Right?
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah. So if we look back, I think it's about at least a year.
It's been a year since I started.
Yeah. Yes. So think about it this way. You are a year ahead of everybody else that has an ability to look into your thoughts and your views about what was happening. And that's your truth. They're a year behind you, right? It took you a year. Yeah. Grace and mercy, right? So a little bit of grace.
Oh, yes.
to
Oh,
allow people just to get caught up on in where they want to be in that, right? So a lot of times we want people to be there instantaneously, and that's not going to happen either.
hmm.
You know, as my mom used to say, you can want all you want, but that doesn't mean that you're going to have it in that
Right.
time period. And 3 years prior to, you were probably in a different place than where you were when you wrote that book, right? And you're certainly in a different place today. So I would just offer a little bit more grace and a little bit more time, and just giving that to people and giving that to yourself too, right?
Yeah. Wow. I will do that. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.
Before we wrap up, too, you talked a little bit about this. Now, to kind of stay on this topic, this last response you had, a lot of the things I've gone through that I now accept and recognize. If I recognize the same thing I used to go through in someone else, and looking back, it's not as though some of these things I noticed myself when I was going through it. I did not really notice what it was. I did not really notice what damages it was doing to me either. So now that I overcame that, but I noticed it in someone else, how can I help as that individual that recognize this bad energy with someone else?
Yeah. And I think delicately, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
um, Delicately, and really being able to have, again, just this conversation. And if it's someone that and like and trust, right? So know, liking, and trusting people, that's a lot, right? You just can't come out and say some stuff to people.
Right.
But it's really about being able to share where you've been,
Yeah.
and to be curious about it, right? And to not, again, is not judging. It's like, well, I might see this and that's happening with you, and want to hear more about your take on it. Be curious, because we don't know people's walk,
Yeah.
and people may feel like they're justified in certain things, and that's okay too. But just sometimes just being there and being available for people to bounce some things off of. It's not about you trying to fix it, but sometimes when someone knows you've been there, and maybe even sharing more of your heart about where you've been with this thing, gives people the ability to say, you know what, I can reach out and talk to her about it, because she's kind of sort of been there, or she's been exactly there, right?
Right.
So it's really about, again, that conversation, that one-on-one. It's about, hey, you know, I care about you, and I want to see you succeed, and it's not looking real good right now. Right? Or I'm just curious about what's going on. Sometimes just saying that you care is enough to
Yeah.
to allow someone to want to reach out and open up.
Yeah. Absolutely. Wow. Thank you. Thank you.
Mhm.
I know it. We cannot end this without you sharing. What are your sessions? What are your services? Where can we find you? What's your number? You don't have to share your home address, but how can we connect, and who is it specifically do you cater to? Do you
Mhm.
provide these services that you just shared tonight? Can you go ahead and share that with us?
Certainly, certainly. So my website is dare, the number two, doitnow.com. Um, I've got some rebranding coming soon, but that's where you can see me at this point. Um, I've done a lot of work with lots of professionals. I started my work with corporate and folks who can actually start to see themselves outside of the profession that they were in, and helping people in transition. And that's partially how I got connected to you,
Yeah.
Teresa. Um, and so I help busy professionals who really want to live their best life, um, and have been putting it on the back burner for a long time. You know, I'm going to wait until I do this, or I'm going to wait until I do that. And a lot of times we do that for reasons that don't serve us, right? And
Yeah.
so really looking to work with people who really want to take that next step. And so I've worked with people in the corporate space. I've done executive coaching, and that's a lot of where the leadership development and working with large teams and motivating people to be their best in a team situation or even for themselves. And I do, personal coaching as well. So the best way to find me is you can connect with me from my website for sure. And then you can send me an email. It's Tamara, Tamarra, at dare, the number two, doitnow.com. Send me an email. You can give me a call. The number is 609-238-2874. Reach out. I would love to be able to see about working with you. One of the things that I do as a part of my coaching is, we're talking about energy, and Teresa, I shared with you, this is like one of my favorite subjects.
Mm-hmm.
And, there's an assessment that I share with people, and it is called an Energy Leadership Index Assessment. And it really helps you to see where your energy is, how you're expending your energy, and it gives you a bird's eye view into how you're showing up in the world, and based on our conversation with a debrief, really can help you to understand wherever it is that you feel like you would want to show up better, can give you some tips around that. And if you want to do some coaching around that, I'm available for that too. So lots of things out there, but everything is energy.
Wow. And as you mentioned in some of the response you just shared with us, for the military service women, that's exactly how I met Tamera. And it's been a year. I didn't even realize that to now, too. It's been a year since I've been out as well. And I think it's been at least 2 years since we've met, because I was still in the military, starting my transition to get out. And that was challenging. Up until I thought that was bad until I got out. And that's when I really felt, I always like to use, I always want to put emphasis on, I don't sometimes remember the exact quote of Harriet Tubman, but I definitely feel like I'm strange now that I'm free, that I still feel strange in this world. It still feels strange to me. So I've been waiting this long to finally get out, but it's very different. I'm not going to doubt any other life coaches, but Tamera, oh my goodness, because there was so much going on this summer, but for the most part, the connection we had and the help you have provided, it goes deeper than that. And I know we didn't really touch much on that tonight, but especially for military service women, you may not know exactly what you need a life coach for at this point, especially if you're still in the military, because you're so focused on the mission itself as far as what your work, but your personal mission, you're going to face some challenges. And although I have this higher power of believing in the spiritual belief in Jesus Christ and God, to still have a life coach to keep me grounded and on the path is very important. And those are not even services they even share with us when we're transitioning out.
Yeah.
They will share with us the suicide hotline, and but it's not necessarily we're that deep. We just need more guidance as we're going through life, because it's already even a different stage for us. But those are not things that they share. And maybe I never heard of life coach because I was so busy and working that I wasn't really exposed to that either. So it's very important, because personally for me, I'm okay with saying I don't know everything. I'm okay with saying, yes, I was a leader here and now I feel lost and I don't know what to do. but to even be comfortable with someone that would listen and provide you with information and just coach you along the way, you know, it's definitely grateful to have you, and it's a great opportunity for women who's serving now, who's going through it, even the ones that's out. I try to help them out too by sharing that with them too, because even sometimes they see me and they think everything is great. Oh no, it's not, but I do try to practice certain techniques to help me along the way, and then if I forget, then I have a life coach to contact versus as we were stating, just kind of having that bad energy. That's a part of, as you stated earlier in the show too, how you manage that can help manage your energy. So I definitely wanted to make sure I put that out there, and I will, Tamera, post your information back on the site again, and that is dare, DARE, 2, doitnow.com, and I will put that information online for you all that need it. And before we end, Tamera, I wanted to know if you had any last words, anything else you wanted to provide, and we'll just go ahead and conclude thereafter.
Absolutely. So I just want to say thank you to you, Teresa. You are just a very courageous woman. The first thing about getting to where you're going is sometimes the last thing that we do, and that is ask for help.
Yes.
That's ask for help. And when I did a presentation for a group of women who are transitioning out of the military, and that's my heart's work. I'm still in that work as well. I gave my information to over 120 women, and one reached out and said, "You don't know me. I heard your voice, and I'm wondering if you will help me." I think I said yes in like less than 5 minutes. Right? And we've been on this journey together, and you've shown me a lot. You know, we're all in this together. We're all continually growing and morphing and changing. And so, you know, I appreciate you for everything that you have done along the way, and everything that you will be doing. And thank you for this medium, right? Thank you for having me in this space. And I appreciate you.
Absolutely. And I thank you. I appreciate you, because I usually don't have the answers for people. So it's easier to push them to the experts, and that makes me feel better. I believe that's my job, is to here's the resource, because you know, if I don't have the right thing to say, as you say, I'm not always delicate. So I know I probably don't have the right thing to say, then it's just push them on to you. So I'm not ashamed of that, but thank you, thank you so much. And I want to take this time to thank the Lord. Thank you, of course, for always being there with me. I want to thank my daughter for loving me unconditionally, and Methodist University Mass Communication Radio Department. Thank you as well for this opportunity, and of course, once again, Tamera, thank you for showing up to season 2. Thank you for being patient as we come online and get stuff going. And I'm looking forward to what life could bring. And I wanted to also state how important this is to not just me, but how valuable it is for others, because I did not have a good day at all today. Little tired, everything, but just even after this conversation, I've already started gaining more positive energy, because I do believe talking to someone helps. Holding it in, I know, doesn't. And I know that prayer works too, but the prayer that I send, the message is to reach out to other people, not just to always pray and not have someone to reach out to. So I thank you so much for your time. And I knew that it was going to happen somehow. I'm not going to end this or cancel this show. The hurricane did enough of that these last couple of
Yes.
weeks. So I want to thank you again. I appreciate your time. I'm glad that I came back on, because it did feel like it's been a while. And I'm sure we'll see you soon. And you'll be posted on my social media outlets as well for everyone who wants to check you out. And of course, this video as well. So thank you, Tamera. Thank you to all the listeners and viewers. And I did see yours as well, Sharon. Try to get used to making sure I'm on a radio and video, so I'm managing everything. But I do see your comment as well. Thank you all again. And if you have anything else or any questions, go ahead and continue to post, and I will send them to Tamera. And she can also see most of them if you don't send me an email. And don't forget, amitzamedia.com as well, and go ahead and send a message through our Facebook page if you are interested in becoming a guest on the show. Thanks again, and you all have a good evening, and talk to you soon, Tamera.
All right. Take care.
All right, bye.
Bye-bye.